I'm Shira Lazar with Farnoosh Torabi. You know, we talk a lot about love and marriage, but you guys were talking about money and marriage. What's the deal?
The deal is that, and you may not believe this, but we are predestined to find our financial opposite. Studies show that we love to find people who are, if we're savers, we like the spenders, and vice versa. And the reason is, on the surface, we find savers find some excitement and exhilaration marrying the spenders, and spenders find security in being with savers, but eventually conflicts will arise. And that's kind of what we're talking about today on the show, is the different sort of marital money issues that couples are having.
Yeah, and so should we go through the real life couples we have here? Greg and Lisa. It helps that you guys have these on. I think all my guests should have these name tags on when they come on. What are your issues?
Our issue is that he's a saver, I'm a spender. And I usually think because it's on sale, that makes it okay. And he doesn't really think that way. So we always end up in a little bit of a conflict of like, you know, why are you even spending the money in the first place? I'm like, because it was on sale.
Well, what's the solution to that?
Well, the first step is having a communication and understanding if Lisa's the kind of person who wants to spend money, well, we have to set a budget aside for that. And we talked about the discretionary income, which is about 10% of your budget. Use cash. I didn't mention this on the show, but use cash because that will limit how much you spend. And if there are big purchases that are, say, over $100 or $200 that you think are needs, but maybe Greg thinks are wants, you should have a conversation about that before making the purchase, so you're both on board.
There you go. I hope that works for you, even though it's easier said than done. No, I don't know from experience, though. All right, so let's move on to this couple. Janice, where is your name tag?
In the garbage.
You don't do name tags, do you?
Yeah, I don't.
All right, so what are the issues here?
Well, I'm also the spender.
Is there a theme here?
Yeah, it is.
Are you a spender? I hope
Yeah.
you're the male spender. Another more.
It's only to say that women control 80% of the household budget. Women are making the decisions in the household. So, I mean, realistically, they are the spenders because they're spending for the household. So not to say that they're better or worse. It's just reality is that women spend more than men.
Yeah, so what issues are you having with it?
Well, we have a 50-50 relationship. I earn it, she spends it. No, that's not true at all. No.
It's early in the morning still.
Yeah, we work together, and you know, she's the tech head, and you know, in our business, it's really important to stay on the edge of the technology, and I understand that, so it gets really expensive. But I would like to plan out our purchases more than I want that, and it shows up on my door the next day.
Yeah, it's like what? What are we talking about? What kind of tech gadgets?
Well, we do high-end wedding videography,
okay.
And so therefore we're all HD. So you know that can become really expensive. And I may not go buy a lot of clothes, but I'll have maybe a new camera coming in the door. So if I want it, I usually go and get it. Unfortunately, I do try to think long term, but Mike is short term. How we're going to pay the bill next month, and I'm like, how are we going to compete with our competitors next year?
Yeah.
So I'm thinking long term in that sense, and you know I do want to save. I just really don't know how to do it necessarily unless it's right in front of me and I can see the numbers.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Well, I think in that case, it's about building on each other's strengths, not necessarily focusing how to change one another, but realizing you have to come halfway. If you're saying that your partner is better at the short term, then maybe he's managing the daily budget, not to exclude you from it, but that he's the sort of CFO for the household, and you're concerned with the goals. If there is a purchase that you want to make that's thousands of dollars or even hundreds of dollars that you think is an investment for the business, rather than buying it and hiding it, or buying it because you sort of feel resentful, buy it only when you have an agreement on it. Make a case for it. Be strong about it.
Have a meeting.
And like I told Greg and Lisa, discuss it. Maybe through the discussion you'll realize it's not that worth it. Because you know what? A lot of times we make impulse purchases. You buy something and you're like, what the heck was I thinking? Yeah. Distancing yourself from it, having a rational conversation with another person about it, you might surprise yourself and you'll come to the conclusion that you'll both agree on, which is maybe it's not the right time. It's not to say never, but everything has to have its timing. You have to reevaluate your goals and your priorities. Your priorities come first. What do you have to get done? Professionally, personally, and for your marriage. And then look at your goals. Marital goals, professional goals, personal goals. And then you're the long-term person. This is where you can really come in and talk about what you think is practical, realistic, and desirable for you as a couple, and what you plan on doing to contribute to that. So divide up the responsibilities, share in the knowledge of those responsibilities, but recognize that it's not about you versus him or I'm right, she's wrong. It's about we both have strengths and weaknesses. Let's recognize them, know our financial histories too. Because the reason you are the way you are is not just magic. It's how you were raised, it's your social influences, and you as well. So discuss that. It'll give you a good reference point so that next time it's not an argument, but it's a understanding of where each other's coming from.
Yeah, wow. God.
We didn't really get to that on the show.
She's like, I'm going to bring it out on the live stream.
Where online really comes in handy.
Like, I will give you my whole...
Much more bandwidth here. We don't have time constraints.
No, that's why we love Backstage Live. All right, so now, I don't want to be in front of people. We'll go to Patricia and Richard here. What are your issues? I feel like this is becoming like a Maury show. I'm like, or like
Phil.
Dr. Phil. Like, all right. So, what are your
Dr.
issues?
Shira.
Dr. Shira here in the house.
Well, he's going to be retiring in probably about 5 years, so we need to start looking at money savings for retiring. So every time I spend something, he sees it.
It's nerve-wracking.
Yes, but I don't spend that much really. Actually, it's mostly for the house.
Yeah.
The household, and he doesn't even want to buy underwear. I mean, come on.
Guys are a bit. No, I know because there are a lot of men in my life, whether it be my father or my stepfather, and it's true. Men are. It's easier for them to say, "I don't need that."
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so,
even if it's underwear.
I love Richard and Patricia's story because it sounds like, they've come together at a point in their life. They're making this commitment. Richard's done a lot of great stuff getting his retirement in order. And I think his biggest fear is that getting derailed because maybe Patricia's not so much in the know about how much he's been preparing for their retirement for the both of them. So my advice is get Patricia in the know, Richard, okay? You have to let her know where everything is kept, all the accounts, how the bills are paid, and look at the budget. So she has a sense. Money is so intangible and we can't really get our hands around it and it's not visual. So make that visual for her, or at least show her where the money's going, educate her. And then as far as spending on the household, it's the advice I gave these folks too. Talk about the big purchases, have a budget for different things, and be proactive instead of reactive. So it's not until the roof's caving in that you decide you need to buy a new roof. It's that you can sort of anticipate these costs. And so I think you'll be okay.
It was interesting talking about, we're going to probably wrap up this segment, but speaking of marriage and money, another big issue a lot of people are talking about are the prenups, with Kelsey Grammer, to prenup or not to prenup, that is the question. Can we touch on that for a second?
Sure. It's a personal and financial decision. Some people, look, it's not romantic, but let's be practical. You have to be. And I think especially in this economy, everyone's aware of what can happen when you're not having your financial ducks in a row and when you're taking on too much risk and when you don't plan ahead. So it's not to say that, honey, I anticipate divorcing you, so I want to have a prenup. It's that this is going to protect the both of us, okay? Make it sort of a team effort. And if you came into the household, into the marriage with a significant number of assets that you want to protect in the event of the worst case scenario, you have every right to do that. And it shouldn't be an aggressive or hurtful conversation. It's a very honest, and I would hope that your partner would be receptive, but don't be shy or intimidated by having the prenup. And even if you don't do a prenup, you can always do a postnup. So if you get married and you decide that there are some things that you wanted to protect under your name, you can still do that, so it's not too late.
Oh, really? I'd never heard of the postnup. So that's some good information this morning. Thank you all so much for being here with us on Backstage Live, and best of luck with everything, with your love and your finances. All right, we will be back soon. Stay tuned for more.